Initial Thoughts is a spoiler-free movie review series. All opinions are my own.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Initial Thoughts, a series in which we talk about films as and when they are released. Today's film we're talking about is One Battle After Another, which is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn. So when I looked at the list of movies coming out in 2025, usually there's ones that jump out and jump off the page to you to go, that has the potential of being really, really good, and some that surprise you. For me, when I read One Battle After Another, while knowing very little about it, was coming out starring DiCaprio, starring Benicio del Toro, starring Sean Penn, starring Regina Hall, starring, the list goes on. And more importantly than that almost, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, I knew that was instantly going to be one that either was going to be one of my movies of the year or one of my biggest disappointments of the year. And the reason is because of Paul Thomas Anderson, and the reason I say it's either going to be unbelievable or a disappointment is because that's kind of my track record with Paul Thomas Anderson. I think of There Will Be Blood, one of my favourite films I've seen. I'm sure if you guys have seen it, you know how good that movie is. Of course, having Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the best performances of all time in that. You have other things like Punch Drunk Love, which I really enjoyed, Boogie Nights. There's ones I haven't seen, things like Phantom Thread or The Master that I haven't got around to seeing yet. But his most recent outing, and the reason I say about the kind of disappointing, was Licorice Pizza, a film that I wanted to love but really didn't get too much out of. I know a lot of people liked it a lot more than I did. So going into this, I'm hoping for There Will Be Blood. I'm hoping to recapture that feeling of, oh my goodness, this is a very unique cinematic experience, because that's what these kind of movies are from this director. They're very much... There's not many directors that are as unique, not in the way of storytelling, not in the way of cinematography, but in the way of feeling that it captures through the movie, through characters. Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the best when it comes to that. And to start talking about One Battle After Another, I have to say, first of all, to give away the secret, did I enjoy it or not, I absolutely loved this movie. I thought One Battle After Another was amazing. Yes, there's a lot of hype around the film, a lot of people talking a lot of praise, so I did go on with a certain hope that I would feel the same. But I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really well-crafted, emotional, tension-filled... I mean, the whole thing from start to finish is essentially a cat and mouse chase, is essentially the hunter and the hunted. And, of course, the dynamic to that. But when you think of that on the outset, you maybe think, okay, well, I can see where that's going to go or what's going to happen. There's a hell of a lot more in One Battle After Another than just the hunt and the chase, if you like. And, I mean, kind of leading into a pun there, the daughter of this, in this film, Leonardo DiCaprio's adopted daughter, in this, played by Chase Infinity. By the way, what a name. That might be the best name in Hollywood. Played by Chase Infinity is, I thought this character and this part and this role is one of the more interesting in Paul Thomas Anderson films in recent times. And certainly I thought her character and her dynamic and her role in the story really led to some of the more interesting and I keep using that word, but the tension-filled moments. And something that really enabled that to be so effective throughout this movie was the score. And I know I've heard a few people mention this too, but the score in this film is one of the more... In a film like this, you would expect, things like car chases or chases in it of any manner, whether it's people having fights in hallways or, cars following each other through the desert, which this has. You would expect kind of, hard rock, grungy kind of music and, to kind of be the backdrop to that. What One Battle After Another has these kind of melancholic and methodical piano keys playing throughout, and kind of the way that adds to the tension and the way that sets the scene is so... It was only about halfway through the film. Of course, it kind of happens throughout the whole from start to finish. But when I actually really noticed that, and I realised halfway through the film just how effective that was, and how the piano keys being hit throughout, the tension moments, the heightened moments, the speed of them, and applying to the scene and the tension or the situation that everybody is in, I thought that was a real masterstroke, and the score, there's a lot of things I'm going to say wax lyrical about here, but the score was one of them I thought was really, really brilliant. Another thing that kind of goes without saying when it comes to Paul Thomas Anderson's films is the cinematography. And again, not cinematography in the sense of like, the Dune films or Blade Runner or those kind of films where it's all this kind of maybe neon or harsh orange colours or everything like that. The cinematography here is these large, wide shots of the desert. It actually reminded me a little bit of No Country for Old Men, but some of the shots in here are truly beautiful. These kind of, I mentioned there about car chases, kind of two cars alone along a massive road, with no end in sight, over hills and over yonder, and that, some of those moments are really, and again, you accomplish that with the really good performances I'll get to here, but also that score I just mentioned. It's a very unique feeling coming out of one battle after another. But since I mentioned it there, let's talk about the performances. And in the case of performances, I was very, very impressed. Someone like Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't even want to waste my breath saying I thought he would be good in this, and he was. Because of course he was. It's Leonardo DiCaprio. It's hard to find him not be good in things nowadays. He doesn't seem to take projects if he isn't going to get the best out of him. And he is brilliant here. Absolutely brilliant as Bob, kind of, in this film. He is truly, he's one of the best actors of this generation and last generation and any generation. He is the man. So him leading this film and being, but something in other films, I think of him in maybe Wolf of Wall Street or The Revenant or Catch Me If You Can or any of these films. Usually he's the smartest man in the room. Usually he's the one carrying carrying the plot in a way of he's the direction, he is the narrative, and he is the strength in himself, in the character. He knows what he's doing. Something that is very different for DiCaprio in this role is he is a lot of times a bumbling buffoon throughout this whole film. But the way he plays that is almost as effective as he does when he's in his characters, like a Jordan Belfort who is very sure of himself. And I think that it was quite a different role for DiCaprio, and certainly not one I've seen him play. Certainly in a while. I wouldn't say he's never done a role like this, but it certainly isn't one that you would expect from DiCaprio. But the way he does it, absolutely brilliant. Benicio del Toro, one of his better performances in a long time, as this kind of sensei character, but the way he works into the story, the way his kind of control of this rebel underworld works really well. But I really want to give a shout, and I also mentioned there Chase Infinity as the daughter, who was truly brilliant as well. But someone who I know people talk a lot about, but I had, until this film, I kind of went, he's decent, but I wouldn't say he's my favourite actor or anything like that, is Sean Penn. Now, Sean Penn as the General in here, General Lockjaw, he is truly an amazing character throughout this. And actually, that applies to all of them. But the way he plays this General character and his role in the story, of course, the General against the rebels and the fighters, and the hunter against Leonardo DiCaprio and his family and his friends, huntees, that is truly what makes One Battle After Another feel like a movie of the year contender for me, because that dynamic works so well. His role in the story, the way he is, the way he and I kind of said about DiCaprio there, and this could usually be attributed to him in other roles. Sean Penn owns every scene he's in, absolutely owns it. As soon as his character, the General, walks through the door, there's a presence on screen, and I think that really, it's probably, for the movie, I haven't went through and seen every single film of his, but I have to say, for this, instantly my favourite Sean Penn performance ever that I've seen. I thought he was truly, truly wonderful in this role. But as I say, it's hard to just single out him, because everybody, from Tiana Taylor to Regina Hall, everybody in here was giving a hell of a lot. And I think, the point, and a very relevant point in today's day and age, this kind of rebellion, this kind of revolution, this kind of against the establishment and fight for the people and everything. And it is a very culturally relevant movie as well in today's day and age. But I never get into that side on here. I'm not a news channel, but I do have to say I thought that worked very effectively, and I think the relevance of it wasn't lost on me, is how I will say. But the way it works, the way the characters perform, the feeling throughout this, and I want to harken back to a word I used at the start there. There's tension throughout this film more than some horror films I've seen. Especially in that third act, and of course I'll not go into any spoilers or anything like that, but I just have to say some of the tension that builds, you're on a kind of heightened tension throughout the whole film. You're kind of following the two once they split up near the start of the film, or kind of as the second act begins, when it's, DiCaprio's character and his daughter, and the two of them are kind of having their own sides of each story, and then it becomes two different hunts, if you like. The way that works is really, really effective, and the way that is done, but on both sides, the tension for each scene, them constantly being chased, them constantly knowing they can't sit still, they constantly knowing that they can't fully escape, but they also have their obligation to do what they need to be doing. The way that's done, the way that's conveyed, and the way the narrative is written for that is really, really damn good. And again, I just have to credit basically everybody involved with this. The actors and the character working throughout this is really damn good. The cinematography and the score is really, it's a real standout, I have to say. Paul Thomas Anderson this is instantly one of his best films for me. I cannot wait to see it again. I think it is truly worth the hype. I know a lot of people, as I say, are talking about this and talking really good things, and I know I'm another one, but it's worth it. One Battle After Another is a really, really... It's going to be up there when it comes to talking about the best movies of 2025. So, I'm talking about that. Let's get to rating time. As far as you can see it there with IMDb, it's already... everybody's pretty high on this film already. Really, a lot of people thinking it's very good. I'm going higher. I thought this was a really, really good... And when I came out of the cinema, I thought to myself, this is anywhere between a 9 and a 10. And I was debating and going back and forth myself where it sat. And truth be told, I couldn't decide in the end between a 9 and a 10. But thankfully, that's why we have half scores. One Battle After Another is getting a very, very worthy 9.5 out of 10. And is definitely one of the best films of 2025. I would absolutely recommend you guys going. Of course, form your own opinion. This is how I felt. You may love this even more than I did. You might not enjoy it just as much. But I have to say, when it comes to my favourite movies of 2025 so far, One Battle After Another is definitely in the conversation for that. It's a film I can't wait to revisit. I'll definitely get seeing it again in the cinema before it leaves. And, who knows, I might feel... it was teetering between that 9 to 10. If I see it again, I might not love it as much. Maybe bump it down to a 9. But I don't think it would ever be less than a 9. It is truly wonderful. But if I see it again and I think, oh my god, I enjoyed this even more the second time, we could be talking about that 10 mark. But anyway, it's a truly brilliant film. I would definitely recommend you watching it. It is pretty damn good, guys. And yeah, that has been my initial thoughts on One Battle After Another. I want to thank you, as always, for taking the time out of your day for listening to me talking about yet another movie. If you want to stick around, I would very much appreciate you doing that. This is where I do all the plugs. I am on Letterboxd. That's where every single film gets logged. That's probably the best place to follow me on, because once I post a review on there, there's the link to this video and everything like that. That'd be the easiest way to follow me. If you want to follow me on Blue Sky or X when it comes to updates for the channel. I'm here on YouTube for the biggest movies of the year. I'm on TikTok. I'm very active on there when it comes to things like, different kind of movie series, revisiting film, or smaller reviews for movies that I want to talk about but maybe don't warrant the kind of interest that the biggest movies of the year do. If you want to follow me on any of those, I would appreciate you so much. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talking about this movie and this video. And if you want to subscribe and stick around, I'd appreciate you so much. And if you do, I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Before you go, here are some of my other videos. For updates and information on upcoming videos, the best place to find us is my Twitter. Much love, everyone.